Hey, it's Brian Bennett. I am a pastor, coach, and a strategist. I want to unpack the idea that we need both courage and wisdom on a daily basis as we seek to lead. See, if we have courage but we don't have wisdom, then we can many times find ourselves getting into trouble. We're acting too quickly. We're maybe running ahead of what God has for us, running ahead of others. We're jumping in when we shouldn't have jumped in. We should have waited, or we should have saw how things panned out, or we should have let someone else rise to the moment. And so courage without wisdom ends up getting us into trouble. We speak too quickly and we act too quickly. We can run over people sometimes in the process. We can come across too strong in our leadership if we're not careful. Now, the reverse, if we have wisdom but we don't have courage, what can end up happening is we know the right thing to do, but we stay on the sidelines. We're paralyzed by fear. We're paralyzed by approval of someone. We're afraid to act. And so if we know the right thing to do, but we don't do it, that can be wisdom without courage. And so we don't need one or the other. We need both. And we don't need them some of the time as we lead, but we need them every single day. Think about what you need courage for right now. Some of us need courage to stay the course. We face challenges, we've run into walls, we've run into obstacles that we have to think in fresh ways and push ourselves or allow ourselves to look at the situation in a way that maybe stretches us or is uncomfortable for us, or it's just staying in the fight and it's not hitting the eject button. It's staying put where God's called us to be and to do what He's called us to do. So we might need courage today just to stay, whatever that means for us. We also need courage to serve. And so sometimes we know we're called to serve, but the actual choice to serve, just like Jesus and His choice to go to the cross, is a choice that takes a deep amount of courage as we choose to serve others and cross our boundary points, whether that's racially or serving those who are from a different background or a different social status than us, or choosing to serve others on our team instead of pretending like we are the ones who have it all together and like we're above everyone else, but we're choosing to serve instead. That choice can make us feel vulnerable. That choice can make us humble us in a way that maybe we're not used to. And so it takes a lot of courage to serve. For others of us, it takes courage to just lead authentically. And that, I just mean to let other people in on our lives and let them see us for who we are, not to who we pretend to be or who we want them to think that we are, but to let them see us for who we really are, to lead with authenticity. And that takes great courage to be real, to be rooted enough in our identity that we don't have to pretend or posture. We can just be real. It takes courage to take risks. And as the leader, as a team leader, as an organizational leader, we have to take risks. We have to say, this is the future that we have to go pursue. And that means saying no to things. And anytime we're saying no to something, we're limiting our options, but we have to do that. We have to say yes to the right things and then to have the courage to jump and to pursue those things when it becomes clear that that's the direction to go. And sometimes those risks are greater. That risk may mean having a conversation. It may mean starting a building campaign, a financial journey. It may mean expanding ministry in a way that we've never done before, or creating something or developing a capacity or a competency that we've never developed before in our ministry, in our church setting. So it's taking risk, and those risks can look like a lot of things, from personal interactions to organizational goals, all those types of things. But risks also means challenging the status quo, and nothing, I think, might take more courage than to constantly challenge the status quo. Now, we're not talking about playing devil's advocate. We're talking about continually seeking to grow and improve the stewardship of what God's given us. And so we're challenging the status quo, and we're thinking about ways that we can do it better and the ways that we can fulfill the mission. Now, we're always tinkering, but this doesn't mean we're bringing anxiousness into the organization. This just simply means we're always looking to grow and develop and improve our effectiveness, our fruitfulness on the mission. And as we think about challenging the status quo, for some of us, that's very uncomfortable, probably depending on our personality type and what level of comfort and security that we prefer. But if we are a leader, then we have to challenge the status quo to get better. So think about all the things that you need courage for this week. Look at your calendar and think about all the things that you need another ounce of courage to face as you think about this week. But here's the other thing. We also need wisdom. So thinking about wisdom, some of us need wisdom today to endure and to choose to persevere. It's not a courage choice for us. It involves courage, but our biggest factor is the wisdom to say, you know what, even though it's hard, or even though there's obstacles, even though it's uncomfortable, I need to stay here and I need to keep planting and sowing seeds until I can care of the soil and pursuing the mission that God has called us to. I need to just persevere and stick in the fight. That's a wisdom choice sometimes. Other times it's the wisdom to know when to do something. It's not a matter of if we should do it, but when we should do it is a choice of wisdom. So just because we have an idea doesn't mean do it now. Just because we have a fresh thought doesn't mean do it now. We have to prioritize. We can't do everything all the time. And so when do we do it? Well, that's wisdom. And we need wisdom to know, how do we do it? What's the best way to implement this change? What's the best way to restructure the staff? What's the best way to expand our donor base, or to expand our missional focus or our footprint, or to expand to another city? All of those questions involve courage, but they also involve wisdom, because it's easy to say, hey, let's go do it. But it may be the wrong time and it may be in the wrong way, and that's why we need wisdom to know right from wrong. Many times with leadership, where we see right and wrong clearly, but sometimes, man, we have to make hard calls and it's gray and it's kind of confusing and there's a lot of factors influencing. So to make the right call, not only when it's black and white, but when it seems more gray than black and white, we absolutely need wisdom. To walk humbly, we need wisdom. So as we think about leading every single day, the ability to walk humbly as we lead, I think one of the keys for us is to walk faithfully and fruitfully, and then to walk hungry and humble. And to do that requires wisdom for a leader, because it's easy to let pride or arrogance take over our heart if we're experiencing some forward movement, some success in some form or another. So how do we lead ourselves to walk humbly requires wisdom. To be teachable, and not just to be teachable, but to invite feedback requires wisdom. And that's something that we have to make a conscious choice. Choose to get feedback from others, because most of the time they're not going to come and give it to us. We've got to not only make ourselves approachable, but we've got to go and seek it out, and that requires wisdom. And the last thing, just to speak into wisdom, is to make the choice to live for the things that matter most. To live and to lead towards the things that matter most in our life. And that's not saying we're not going to mow the grass or do some of these other things. What that means is in the midst of everything that we're doing, we're not letting go of the values of the things that matter most. And obviously, taking care of the grass, it matters. Going to the grocery store, it matters. All that stuff matters. Not pretending like that stuff doesn't matter. But at the end of the day, are we sacrificing the things that matter most for the next job promotion, for something that we're chasing that's not healthy for us, that God hasn't designed for us? It's outside of our boundary limits. We're not honoring His calling in our life. We're chasing after something instead of living from the inside out and letting Him lead and nurse us each day. So as you think about leading this week, what do you need courage for? And what do you need wisdom? As you think about leading this week, how do you apply both courage and wisdom to the opportunities that are in front of you? How do you apply both courage and wisdom to the challenges that are in front of you? As you think about what does it look like to be a courageous leader this week, what does that mean? As you think about what it looks like to be a wise leader this week, what does that mean? If we're going to be leaders who are going to run the race well that God has called us to run, whatever that looks like, we're going to have to be leaders who lead with both courage and wisdom.